Okay, and we are live. Okay, now we are live. The countdown was wrong. Anyway, welcome to another episode of All Things Xbox podcast. We have a lot to talk about today, and once again with me, I have Logan. Logan, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Excited to get going today. This is gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, and normally we have rants about Square Enix every week. Well, this week's rants have nothing to do with Square Enix, so that's something new. But yeah, before we get into the topics and let people come into the show, uh, I'm almost done with Elden Ring, and throughout your gaming life, you have these sort of gaming accomplishments, be it a super difficult achievement or something, or a certain boss battle. Well, Elden Ring has been that for me because I've been playing From Software games since the original PlayStation, and that was Armored Core. And playing Armored Core as a kid, it was cool. You play as a robot, fighting other robots. It was awesome. And throughout the years, they released other stuff, and I got Dark Souls when that came out, and I loved it. And the thing about Dark Souls is that I could never finish it. I got maybe 90% way through the game, and I just couldn't do it. I got to a boss I just couldn't get past. Well, with Dark Souls 3, same thing happened. I got about 90% through the game, and the same thing happened. Uh, anyway, before I continue, if the audio is okay, please let me know in chat, just so I've got everything sorted. But yeah, same thing happened with Dark Souls 3. I bought the DLC, couldn't get through the game because I was just terrible at it. So Elden Ring for me has been this challenge of getting from start to finish, and I'm in the final area, and it's been an incredible journey. And like you've already finished it, right? Haven't you, Logan?
Yeah, I finished it a few weeks back. I think I'd have to let's see, 189 hours I think in, and I did pretty much every boss side quest I could do with the ending I was choosing.
Wow, that yeah, that's a lot of hours. Well, I'm about 122 hours in, and I'm in the final area, the dragon area. In that's just kicking my behind because like, I got maybe 80 hours in, and I was like, you know what? I think I'll level up my sword, and then the game became easy. I was defeating bosses people had complained about online, but like. The past few hours playing that has been a real challenge. It's kicked my behind in like so much, but I'm nearing the end, and yeah, it's probably going to be the first like Souls game by From Software I'm going to finish. And what an incredible game! Like I was saying before the game came out because I was in the public tech test for it, and I was telling people like if you have never played a Souls game or if you don't like Souls games, you will not like this. But 122 hours later, I'm thinking, you know what? A lot of people would really like this, even if they don't like Souls games. So I just wanted to get that out there, and yeah, incredible game, just incredible. We're probably going to see some expansions by the end of the year because again, the publishers talked about how like that game's continued to grow. It's over 13 million sales, and they want to expand into other forms of media. We're probably going to see a television series about it, and considering the amount of bosses in that game, they could literally do a boss per episode. Like over 120 bosses in that game, and then there's duplicates of bosses that aren't even bosses. So, yeah, incredible game. They're gonna go really big places with that game. Elden Ring is gonna be all over the place. Like Elden Ring 2, a few years from now, that's gonna sell like 20 million probably. But yeah, great game. Anyway, let's get into the topics. But first up, if you're new to the channel and if you want to support the show, please like, share, and subscribe. We have super chats actually turned on now because I have all my settings sorted. So if you want to support the channel, that's great. But sharing all that stuff helps too. So, E3 has been around for years. It's part of the gaming industry and it's kind of an institution in gaming itself. And whenever it came out that E3 was no longer going to be a thing this year, Jeff Keighley swooped in literally within a minute of the announcement of E3 not happening this year, saying that, look, Summer Games Fest is going to happen this year, and he's going to be running the thing, all that stuff, because Jeff Keighley has to be the face of gaming, apparently, which I've never really understood. But anyway, he puts on a good award show every year. I will commend him for that. It's an enjoyable award show with cool announcements. So where am I going with this? Well, he came out yesterday and said, look, people should temper their expectations. Now, a lot of people took that the wrong way. Summer Games Fest is basically him linking in other shows while having his own announcements. And people took that statement and thought he meant Xbox. This is the 1 year where no one at Microsoft has said temper your expectations. No one said that. People are joking about it, but not a single person's mentioned that. Aaron Greenberg would normally come out and say that, but he hasn't this year. There's a lot of hype going at this. Microsoft has 25 plus studios. There's a lot of games in the works, and there's a lot of things to be announced. So I think this is the year people shouldn't worry about that stuff. We got the new consoles out. Last year was kind of the first year games, and this year is going to be big. It's going to be a 90-plus minute show of new game announcements and Game Pass stuff. So people should really look forward to this. This is going to be better than last year's show, and it was probably their best show in years. So, Logan, what's your thought on the whole, Jeff Keighley telling people to temper their expectations and people losing it online again?
Well, I think it's a classic case of people are being ill-informed and jumping to conclusions. Like, remember, Jeff Joff. I always get his name confused. Y'all know who I'm talking about. He puts his show together, and he tries to connect all these different events and put them under this umbrella network of this is the summer showcase, his game Summerfest or whatever. And so he tries to take the place of E3, even though E3 technically isn't even dead yet. I mean, we still haven't had one in a while, but they haven't axed it yet. And so he's just trying to be like this commissioner and trying to run all these different leagues and all these different shows and have them all come together under his umbrella. What he was talking about in particular was his own showcase that's going to be happening in a couple days. He was not referring to the Xbox showcase at all. In fact, not only should you be hyped for that, you should be pretty hyped for it because they have so much stuff they're having to have two shows. One on the 12th, and then a couple days later, they're going to have a part 2, which is going to be further deep dives into stuff that they discussed and some new trailers. Like, my guess is some games that are already out there that maybe not everybody wants to have a big focus on during the main show. They'll slide them in there. And maybe some other type announcements. There'll be interviews with devs, stuff like that. So the fact that they're having two events and spread out over two 90-plus minute shows is pretty great sign to me.
Yeah, I mean, last year they did the deep dive thing as well, and during the first show we get our trailers and stuff, new announcements and all that stuff, and on the extension show they did the deep dive where they showed multiple segments of gameplay and gave us more details. It's where we got all the Xbox footage of Flight Simulator last year. So I don't think people should worry. Again, no one from Xbox has said temper your expectations. We're aware that that's a meme. People say wait till E3 and then temper your expectations. Not a single person said that this year. It's just Jeff Keighley's show. And who knows, Jeff Keighley's show might be cool. I'm going to watch it. But I think people should just calm down. It's going to be a great show. And yeah, it's going to be good. And it also came out today that E3 is actually coming back next year, which I'm hoping, because there's nothing really like E3. I think around about 2010, there used to be maybe 6 different press conferences because, Konami used to have a press conference, even though it was probably the worst thing in existence. And if people want to see what the Konami game showcase was like in 2010, look it up on YouTube. It's hilarious. It's terrible. It was so awkward, but beautiful at the same time. Activision used to have their own thing. Again, equally bad, but we always used to have these different game shows. Before the whole pandemic started, Warner Brothers were going to have their very first game showcase in 2020, and with all the stuff they have in development. So we were going to see Hogwarts Legacy and Gotham Knights way before we did. So, I think it's cool. It's a cool thing that E3 is going to come back, because I don't like the idea that it not happening was celebrated, and I felt like it was celebrated for the wrong reasons. Yes, the ESA charges a lot of money for these companies to go there and show their games off and have people there. But people weren't celebrating, companies not spending money. People were celebrating because Jeff Keighley could have his thing instead, and that just felt wrong, It just felt a bit smarmy to me. I don't know. I didn't really like it, but yeah, we'll move on. This wasn't a topic until I saw it just before the show, Logan. You may have seen this, you may not. Uh, you know, fanboys like to take things that people say and use them as ammo all the time. It happens every day. And this is an Xbox show, and I felt the need to address this because uh, Colin Moriarty from his podcast made a statement today, or whenever
Oh
his last
boy.
podcast was. Yeah, you probably saw this on about how Xbox doesn't have the same kind of triple A's as PlayStation, and that they can't match them. And I think that's a bit of a silly statement. If you have a large following, you shouldn't really like. If you put something out there, it's going to be used as ammo, right? I have like 20,000 followers on Twitter, and I'm careful with what I say because I know things will be used against me. And, I try to be careful, although it happens every day. People see the crap I get. But, like, saying that was a kind of bit weird because, like, PlayStation doesn't have the races that Xbox does. PlayStation doesn't have the first person shooters that Xbox does. Like, PlayStation doesn't have a game like Gears. The list can go on. And the thing is, Microsoft's their goal and the thing that people wanted for years was Microsoft to grow their first party studios. Because if you remember, at the beginning of the Xbox One generation, they had like 5 studios, 4 of which were making games. So obviously they weren't going to have games like Uncharted out the gate because they couldn't. And if you look at the talent they have now, if you look at things like Hellblade 2 and those 6 minutes of gameplay we got last year, that statement by Colin Moriarty was kind of, how shall I put it, stupidly unwarranted. Like PlayStation make gorgeous games. They do. But at the same time, I feel like they lean on just a game having pretty visuals and being pretentious over the game being fun. You know, like look at that biker game, Days Gone. That game looks really cool to me, and it sold a lot of copies. But PlayStation, they're not going to make a sequel because of Metacritic scores. That's the dumbest thing to me. PlayStation, they aren't very fan centric. Microsoft, they used to be extremely corporate when it comes to Xbox, but over the years, they've gotten extremely fan centric. They talk to the fans all the time. They talk about memes and all this stuff. They play along with this stuff. PlayStation is extremely corporate. So when I hear that PlayStation make these games that Xbox can't, it's like, well, for the longest time they couldn't because they didn't have the studios. And to me, that was a stupid statement. Colin Moriarty, I respect him for like certain things he stuck up for in the past. He said some really good things in the past, but this is a take I just think was a bit silly. What's your thoughts, Logan?
Yeah, there's been a numerous credentialed folks kind of putting their feet in their mouth this past week with some takes that came outside their wheelhouse, whether it was about instinct or about can't match the quality of this or this. I'm like, you think PlayStation can match the breadth and everything that Nintendo's got going on? Nintendo's smoking them in so many different categories. Yet he wouldn't go there. He always goes after Xbox. It's just this weird focus for him, and that's okay. That's his platform. He's built up sacred symbols. PlayStation focus. What does the PlayStation community love more than the games themselves? To hate people who like Xbox. It's what they do. But so I get it. I respect the hustle. But I agree. I don't think it was a very accurate statement. I and you have to be careful when you have a large following because people take what you say and like you said, use it against you, or they weigh it more than some like Joe Blow with like 200 followers. It's just the way it is. Even though frankly, I think a lot of the smaller accounts are more knowledgeable about their particular topic than somebody with a check mark who just sits behind a keyboard and tweets, whatever he wants and just laughs about it and just watches the world burn. So, I don't know. It's dumb. You got people destroying their PlayStations with chainsaws because it came to PC. You got guys stoking fire about this and trying to clap back about that. And like at the end of the day, games is about enjoyment and fun and spending time with your friends and family and just enjoying a hobby or a career. It's not for this clown town stuff. And unfortunately, that's kind of what Twitter's been like lately.
Yeah, it was a weird situation. Like, Colin Moriarty's been in the gaming industry for years now, But I think he would have known better to say that. But, I mean, maybe he actually thinks that, maybe he just wanted the clicks. But, at the end of the day, I respect the dude. He's, put a lot of effort into the game industry over the years. I believe he actually makes games as well. But, like, it was just a weird take. I don't know. I didn't like it. Um, but, while we're on about the whole weird take situation, we need to talk about Killer Instincts. So, on one of his podcasts, he wasn't on it though. Like, he does an Xbox centric show where other people host it. Paris from Twitter was on as well, and basically they came out and said that their opinions was that Killer Instinct shouldn't return, basically because Street Fighter exists. That kind of what it boiled down to. Killer Instinct doesn't have the following or any of that, and I thought that was weird. I'm not a fighting game fan. Like I used to be when I was a kid and a younger teenager. Now I just don't. I don't play fighting games much. But the pop Killer Instinct got at E3 2013 was absolutely massive. Of all pops we've heard at E3, that was one of the biggest, and that was over the return of a fighting game that was 20 years old or something. Like Killer Instinct hadn't been around since the Super Nintendo, and it got that pop. And it's like people want that to come back. And Maximilian Dude, fighting game dude from YouTube, huge channel, talks about fighting games a lot. Like he got Killer Instinct trending a few times. Like I think it was like 2 years ago or something. Like people want that back. And I think when it comes to fighting games, people that don't play them look at them in a different way. Like me, for instance, right? I don't play fighting games, but I'm aware that people that do, they play a variety of fighting games. People don't just stick to one. They're more likely to, play a few different ones. Look at K Mega. He plays like a different fighting game every day, right? And posts footage of it online. People want Kill Instinct to return, and the best part is that Microsoft have all these different franchises and characters now that they can pull characters from that would actually suit that universe. Because remember, they put Gears of War characters in there, and it works. And I don't know, man. Like, I just thought it was a weird take because maybe it's just the week of like before the Xbox showcase, so people need to actually just voice bad opinions. I don't know. What's your thoughts, man?
I thought it was a bunch of hogwash, and I even said so. It just comes off as extremely uneducated. Like it's one thing to say, "Hey, it's not my thing. I don't think it's that popular," but the fighting community likes it, and I'm happy for them. And you know, maybe it's not the most popular out of the hierarchy of fighting games, but it does have a passionate community. Like, say something like that. Don't just like to say it was never popular. It's trash. It's like, why have it when you have Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter? I mean, think about it. If you apply that logic to some other stuff, it's like, I have Halo, Gears, Call of Duty, Medal of Honor, Killzone. Like, throw out any FPS you want. Like, at the end of the day, you're just shooting stuff. I mean, is one shooter different than another or the same? I mean, it's like it would be like putting a huge broad strokes like that, which is nonsensical. All of those games are very different from one another. So to me, it came off very uneducated. Like I'm not a fighting game guru, but I know it has a big community, and you've seen Maximilian, other people hype it up. I've played it, I like it, but I think it should return. But I would never, especially if it's not a category that I'm intimately familiar with, I would not put my foot in my mouth and say something like that to make a hasty generalization that it's not popular. It's clearly cut below, and that it shouldn't come back. Shouldn't even talk about it. Waste our time on it. Yada yada yada. Because clearly the blowback was fast and furious, and Paris, to his credit, said, "You know what? I goofed. I'm gonna play it right now, and I'm gonna see what it's about." And I clearly didn't get it right. Props to him, and guys. It takes a real dude to admit when they're wrong, to try something out and learn, and to do better. Props to him. Harry, on the other hand, doubled down and said, "F the noise." Like that take was solid, and he got obliterated in the comments for it. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's opinions, and you follow who you like and whose opinion you agree with. But it was not a wise opinion.
Yeah, yeah, it was a weird opinion. You know, Paris is a solid dude. You know, I've been following him for years on social media, and cool guy. You know, he came out and admitted like he was wrong. You know, he played the game afterwards, and you know, the reason I don't talk about franchises I don't really care about much is because if I'm not informed on the topic, I don't see the point in me talking about it. Like again, I don't talk about fighting games much because I don't play them anymore. But I know well enough that there is a following that do want Killer Instinct to return. You know, I think people just want more fighting games in general. Like whenever Microsoft buys a studio, myself included, talk about how Microsoft should have a platform fighter. You know, much like um, Super Smash Brothers or multiverses. Like they have enough characters that could just mash together now, and I think people would like that. But yeah, I think Killer Instinct will return someday. It'll just take time, and considering that the amount of people that were angry about that just shows the passion is still there for the franchise all these years later. And yeah, honestly, I do think it'll return someday. Just people have to be vocal. Keep saying that you want this game to come, and it'll happen. You know, this topic I was going to talk about later in the show, but I kind of want to talk about it now. So we have to talk about PlayStation State of Play, right? And honestly, before I talk about what we saw and stuff, I thought it was actually really good.
I agree.
It was very well done. You know, again, these state of plays, they just show game, game, game. There's no talking, there's no development stuff. You know, that stuff's usually left for the blogs. But all in all, I thought it was a really cool showcase. But the wrath afterwards online, oh my, wow! Like I've never seen this reaction of just multi-platform. They opened up with Resident Evil 4 remake. Now that's kind of been known for a while. Everyone knew that was going to come, and it looks really good. It's going to be next gen only. It's coming to Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 5, and it looks good. It looks really good. So if you're a fan of Resident Evil and Resident Evil 4, you're probably going to like this. And it looks fairly faithful to the original with the comparison screenshots I've seen. And then they showed, Spider-Man for the PC. The reactions of that, by the way, hilarious. There's nothing wrong with PlayStation putting games on PC. It's fine, But like you were saying earlier in the show, someone actually took a chainsaw or some sort of saw to their PlayStation because of this. And I saw various videos of people almost crying. Like people's cheekbones go red just before they cry, and I've seen people react and almost be in tears over a game just being multi-platform now, and it's very weird. I never understood that. Like, if a game is on PC, it's not getting taken away from you, but the reactions online are just hilarious. And then they showed the Callisto Protocol. That game was announced in 2021, I believe, or it was either 2020. Yeah, it was 2021, and that is by the creator of Dead Space. And that game looks phenomenal. The screenshots came out earlier in the week with the Game Informer article. Highly recommend people read that. Very good article. It's free. And it looks good. It looks like what people have wanted from a new Dead Space game for years. It looks like next-gen Dead Space, basically. And that's coming to all platforms other than, Nintendo. And the reaction of that was very weird. And I think people that follow me on social media might know what I'm about to talk about. So I posted just the image of Callisto Protocol saying, hey, it's also coming to Xbox Series X and S. Because whenever these shows happen, be it Xbox, Nintendo, or PlayStation, they only have their own logos over the games, right? So a lot of people will go on Twitter to see if the developer or publisher posted about the game and see if it's multi-platform. It happens all the time. It happens during Nintendo's, showcases and all that stuff. So when it happened with this, the weirdest thing happened. This one person just start replying to my posts about the Callisto Protocol and replying to everyone that replied to me saying they're excited. Basically bragging about a DLC loadout pack that you get if you pre-order it on PlayStation. Now, if people have been following me for a while on Twitter and on YouTube, I don't give a crap about pre-order DLC. That little piece of paper that comes in the box with the code on the back, I never use. I don't care. I'm the type of person that uses the default equipment in games. I like to use the stuff that's on the cover, So whenever like Dead Space 2 came out back in the day, I used the plasma cutter throughout the entire game. I didn't care about the flamethrower, right? But the reaction online, this person made 9 different accounts and just kept telling me and other people about this pre-order DLC and how it's the best version and how, like, it will never be on Game Pass and how PlayStation will have the better version because of marketing rights. Now, this person is obviously 12 because marketing deals have nothing to do with performance or visuals. Remember Red Dead Redemption 2? Heavily marketed with PlayStation. It was 4K on Xbox One X. Marketing deals have zip all to do with that stuff. Like, you must have seen some of the reaction, right, Logan?
Yeah, people were just clowning about the whole thing about, like, how PlayStation, I even tweeted about it, like, they're very, very sneaky when they put out releases for these titles. They, in the fine print, they'll put PlayStation and 4 and 5 and PC or whatever, and make it look like it's not coming to other consoles when, in fact it is. And so to a casual observer, they'll see it and they'll go, "Oh, okay, if I want to play this game, I have to play it on PlayStation." Or even some news outlets do that, like Jimatsu, and I know Game Informer did for a couple of them. But they make it look like it's only on that platform. Yes, it was shown on their showcase, but if it's multiplat, it's multiplat. So it just there's a whole bunch of disinformation swirling around about that. Like, I had to calm some friends down about it because they thought Callisto was going to be totally exclusive to PlayStation. I'm like, no, no, but man, I don't worry about it. It's coming to Xbox as well. There's this timed 2 week window DLC thing or whatever, but it's Xbox as well. It's multi-platform. Don't sweat it. And they're like, oh well, they were making it sound like, I'm like, yeah, that's what Sony does, and so. Um, yeah, and then people spamming you with fake accounts just to get mad about, you know, time DLC or nobody plays old games or, whatever. Like, I don't know, man. People got better things to do.
Whenever any of these companies put out a trailer and it's a third-party game, a lot of people usually know that they're multi-platform, but the way Sony display them, people genuinely think they're exclusive. The Callisto Protocol was already announced for Xbox last year, but when it came to that showcase, people were like, "Oh, it's exclusive." It's like, no, it's just they weren't going to put the Xbox logo in a PlayStation showcase. Like, that was never going to happen. But people just lost their minds, and the thing is, it made me think about toxic fandoms because, like, the PlayStation community is solid, but their fanboys are just terrible, right? They have this unwarranted sense of ownership when it comes to intellectual properties they don't even own. The Callisto Protocol drove people mad. It's a third-party game developed by the creator of Dead Space. And this similar thing, I never talked about this, but a similar thing happened just before Christmas. There was this person randomly, making new accounts to spoil the new Spider-Man film, right? When there was rumors that Spider-Man was coming to PC, and this person just randomly starts trying to spoil the new Spider-Man film for me. This person spent about 12 hours making alternate accounts. I'm not even kidding. About 12 hours making alternate accounts, spoiling a film that I'd already seen. And this person was like, "Oh, Spider-Man, you'll never get it on your Xbox," and all this stuff. And he was posting pictures of Andrew Garfield and all that stuff. It's like, this person was spoiling a movie that I'd already seen because he was angry at me being an Xbox fan. Isn't that bloody weird? Like, the toxic fandoms is stupid. Like, all fan bases have them, but the PlayStation community get angry over everything. A game goes multi-platform, like PlayStation, it goes on PC. They get angry. These people that don't even game on PC, they like to spoil movies for people that like other movies. Like they try to spoil Spider-Man for me, a film I'd already seen. Like, this person spent 12 hours making accounts just to spoil a film I'd already seen. And it happens over and over again. This Callisto Protocol thing. Nobody cares about downloadable DLC packs, right? I got the code for the classic Lego character pack. in the Lego Star Wars game. I haven't used it yet. I don't care about this crap, right? I have codes in all of my 360 games off years ago. I never claimed them because I don't care. Like, I don't care about that DLC stuff. And, David VGS in chat said whenever someone says Final Fantasy VII is coming to Xbox, Sony fanboys get mad. They get mad that Square Enix games may come to Xbox. Like, again,
or Atlas.
Yeah, or Atlas. Like, if you mention Persona on Xbox Online, you are guaranteed within a minute and a half of someone replying, they have an anime profile picture and they are angry for some reason. And it happens almost every time. If anyone ever gets bored, go to my tweets, search Persona. Almost every single post I make about Persona coming to Xbox, there's at least one angry reply. Every single time, without fail. And
I always let you know that it doesn't sell well.
Yeah, it's like, and I've tried to tell people, like, these and the funny thing is, it's always Americans that I see, or people from Europe, basically non-Japanese people, gatekeeping Japanese games off an American console.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's very weird, and it's like I've seen other people online that are like ambassadors for Square Enix get angry for Xbox gamers wanting stuff to come over to an American console when they are an American themselves. Like, what is that? Like, and I thought people are meant to be patriotic. Wouldn't you want those games on your platform? It's very bizarre. Like, the fandoms I see online are just like weird. Everyone has made probably some like fanboy comment once or some sort of joke, but like there's a difference between making a little snarky joke and being completely toxic and making 12 accounts to stalk someone. And I've just seen a lot of that this week. I've seen other people just get attacked this week just by talking about the Callisto Protocol, a third-party horror game. Like, I was actually kind of speechless. Like, this has happened enough times to me to the point where it doesn't bother me, but it's happened enough times now where I'm not kind of fazed by it, and that's kind of sad if you think about it. Like, this happens over multi-platform games. Just wow. And we'll talk about the whole Final Fantasy thing, and we'll get into your predictions later in the show and stuff, and the whole summer Xbox showcase. But like, there's been rumors that Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming to Xbox, and of all places, it would make sense to have on the Xbox Summer Showcase, because it's been over 2 years since it launched on PlayStation 4. It makes sense. That would have the most eyes on it, and that game is guaranteed to sell simply because it's Final Fantasy VII. It's a worldwide known game, a remake of a worldwide known game, and it's just weird. Like, these fandoms just lose their mind. And you mentioned earlier in the show, like, the dude saw in a PlayStation because of a game going to PC, and it's like, you could have gave that away to someone that needed a PlayStation or wanted one. You could have gave it, I think it's Goodwill or something in the US, but they could have just done anything, sold it for charity or something, but sawed a PlayStation in half because of a game going to PC was just the weirdest thing. This isn't 2010 where people are being edgelords where they smash consoles outside of video game stores. It isn't that year anymore, and people are still doing that cringe shit. Like, I'm not swearing on this channel, but I had to say it. Like, just stop the cringe, man. Like, God, who cares if a game goes to PC? Like, nobody really gives a crap. They don't. And if they do, they need help. Like, who cares? When did Spider-Man come out? 2018? 2017? Like, they've played.
It's been a hot minute.
Yeah, like, and it also got remastered, and they almost acted like they had the game not only taken away from them, but stolen from them. And almost like, taking their memory back of playing. It's like, no, you've still got it on your shelf or on your hard drive, and they just lost it. It's weird, the behavior you see from these people. Anyway, we'll move on because the fanboy talk's kind of annoying. But yeah, if you talk about the Callisto Protocol online, you'll probably get some dude with 12 accounts following you and start replying. Funny enough, this person is blatantly the same person every time, because every single one, he follows Elon Musk and likes the exact same 4 tweets. It's the same nerd. Stop it. He's probably listening right now and getting triggered over me talking about the Callisto Protocol. It'll probably look better on Xbox, by the way. Anyway, let's move on. I found out about this just before the show went live. There's a game that's just launched on Xbox, and it might be on PlayStation as well. It's called To the Moon and Beyond. It's a game developed by NASA. and it's completely free. It's a card-based game where you have to basically build up NASA. But again, it's free. It's got 1,000 gamer score. Have at it. I think it's about 300 megabytes. I downloaded it just before the show went live. But hey, it's a free game. Get some achievements. Anyway, let's move on. So Ubisoft Summer Showcase is expected to come out in July. And Logan, I have to say we've got some weird static coming from your end.
Oh, I haven't said anything in a while. Do you hear anything still?
It's keep going in and out. I don't know if you're next to a fan or something, but it's kind of going quiet now. Anyway, Ubisoft's Summer Showcase is expected to come out in July, and they're not going to be part of the Summer Games Fest stuff. So it just came out today that Assassin's Creed Rift may be announced during the Xbox Showcase. Now, the rumors for the past year, and pretty much every single Assassin's Creed rumor happens. You know, Assassin's Creed games leak every year, and this game is apparently going to be a smaller scale game. It's apparently set in Baghdad. We have had other Assassin's Creed games set in the Middle East before, but yeah, it looks like we're going to see a big Assassin's Creed game on the Xbox show. Now, this isn't confirmed or anything, but considering they aren't having an E3 showcase just yet, I think it's highly likely. They've had Assassin's Creed games on the show before. Anyway, Logan, what's your thought?
Well, Assassin's Creed is a well-known franchise. It's a big name still, and it makes sense to show it at the Xbox showcase. I remember the original Assassin's Creed was a big showcase title for the 360, so makes sense to go back to your roots with this one.
Yeah, and again, with it being a smaller scale thing, like people have been wanting a smaller scale Assassin's Creed game for years, and apparently this will be full on next gen, which I'm looking forward to because I want to see what they can do with an Assassin's Creed game just using next gen tech. Because if you played Valhalla on like Series X or S, that game is gorgeous, and you can load completely different regions within like 3 seconds. You know, these SSDs we have now, like I completely understand why PC people have talked about SSDs for years, because loading doesn't take minutes anymore. So that looks like it might be likely. And considering Ubisoft apparently has like 20 games in development, we might see multiple games, because Microsoft do partner with Ubisoft a lot, especially with the single player stuff after we've seen in the past few years. But yeah, it could be really good, especially for Assassin's Creed fans like myself that want something on a smaller scale. So that should be pretty cool. Yeah, we're going to need to talk about limited run games. So for years, people have been wanting limited run games to come to Xbox, and basically they do, basically in the title, limited run prints of these indie games or smaller scale games. And a few weeks ago, they announced that we're getting Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge on Xbox. Now, if you want a physical copy, you get a few pins with it and all that stuff. Well, they announced last night that they've announced 9 more games getting Xbox physical versions. And there's a lot of collectors on Xbox that are looking forward to this stuff. So basically, these are the 9 games getting physical releases on Xbox. You have Tetris Effect, Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, River City Girls 2, Powerslave Exhumed, Spider Saws, Lunark, Shadowrun Trilogy, Doom 64, and A Boy and His Blob. Yeah, that's right. So, Logan, what's your thoughts on this? Because I know you've been wanting more limited run games for a while.
I'm very, very happy about this, especially for Doom 64. It's a first party title, and hopefully it's the first of many. They'll go back to Quake, hopefully, and Psychonauts and some of the other ones. Tetris is very good. Plumbers Don't Wear Ties is a really interesting cult hit from way back. It was one of the first visual novel type games. That'll be a fun one. Shadowrun Trilogy just hit Game Pass, and Shadowrun has had some history with Xbox. Rumors of maybe another one down the line. So that's a good one to pick up. Spider Swords, not familiar with, but sounds fun. I like spiders and dinosaurs. River City Girls 2. I've played the first one, enjoyed it. Powerslave Exhumed is an awesome retro shooter remaster. Like aliens and like mummies and just kind of Doom-esque in Egypt and really cool. Um, Night Dive did a brilliant job with it. Bill and Ted is going to be hilarious, and then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is just going to beat them up, cowbunga, man. And if you buy the physical of that, it does come with a Pizza Hut voucher like they used to back in the day. So you get a free personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut if you buy a physical copy of that.
Oh, well, there's another reason to buy that then. But yeah, it's cool that we're getting this stuff. And again, people have been wanting physical like games like this for years. And again, there's still a lot of people that collect games on Xbox physically. So yeah, and the good thing is, them announcing 9 this quickly, it's a good sign, if they sell well enough. Because again, these are very limited run games. I think the maximum like 10,000 prints or something. So not a lot of people. But yeah, I think it's going to be really good for collectors. And the thing is, the values of these things are probably going to go way up over the years because again, limited run. And honestly, I think I might pick up the Shadowrun trilogy because that launches on Xbox Game Pass at the end of the month, and I've always wanted to play those games. I have those games on PC, by the way, but I haven't played them because I don't like playing games on PC unless it's Among Us. But yeah, I might be picking that up, and it's a good sign. And the thing is, if we see more Star Wars games come over, those games might get physical editions as well. So there have been rumors that they might be working on a Star Wars Rogue Squadron collection. Now, I would buy that in a heartbeat because I love those games on the
Same.
N64 and the GameCube. The GameCube game, by the way, still looks good all these years later. And if they can put that on like modern consoles, 4K resolution, they wouldn't even really need much texture work. But like put that on a disc with a collector's edition, I'd buy that so hard. I love Star Wars games. But yeah, good times for collectors out there. Before we move into the GoldenEye topic, if you're new to the channel and all that stuff, please like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel out. We have super chats finally live now because I figured out how to get it working. So if you want to support the channel that way, helps everyone out. Anyway, GoldenEye. Now, the thumbnail for this video is the poster for GoldenEye where Pierce Brosnan's mouth is spreading over into his hand, and I can't not say that meme anymore. Anyway, the game came out, and I believe it was like 97 or something. It actually came out a year after the movie. So people were thinking at the time, this movie licensed game on the N64 a year after it launched, no one would buy it, right? So it came out, and it had okay sales, GoldenEye had some decent sales, but then the following holiday, the game launched and sold even more than its launch amount. And the company that was making it right at the time, they were surprised, so they ordered more copies to be made. And it was just this game that was continuing to sell throughout the year. And then the third holiday, it sold more than the 2 previous years combined. It was unstoppable, right? Everyone was talking about GoldenEye all the time. So the following year, it continued to sell even more than those years combined. It turns out that, Matthew Smith Dog just said in chat it was 2 years. Right, I knew it was 1 or 2 years, but it launched way after the movie. So no one expected it to do well, and it ended up being the number 2 best-selling N64 game, next to Super Mario 64, which is a huge accomplishment considering it was a movie tie-in. Those games didn't sell back then. And I remember playing that as a little kid, not knowing what to do half the time, but I loved it. It's a part of gaming history, and because of that, we got tons of other Bond games. There were Bond games on the original Xbox and GameCube I used to play all the time. I think it was 007 Nightfire. I loved that game, but we wouldn't have had those games if it wasn't for GoldenEye selling so well. So over the years, I just wondering, Logan, did you ever play the original GoldenEye?
Oh, absolutely. I still have my copy on N64. It's one of the most important games of all time, honestly, because of how impactful it was in the industry. One, it showed movie tie-in games can work and sell really well. Two, it was incredible local multiplayer where everybody could jump into a party and death matches and whatnot. The characters, everything, the gadgets. if it didn't exist, then we wouldn't have gotten Perfect Dark because basically Rare was like, we want to make another GoldenEye, but we're not doing James Bond. We want to control it, so we'll make our own secret agent and game and make Perfect Dark, and boom, that franchise exists now. And like you said, the other 007 games, and how all these games throughout history, you have an occasional title that does something so innovative or so impactful that it spawns a new genre or creates a new feature and expectations that other titles then draw on for decades later. GoldenEye is absolutely one of those, and I can't wait for the remaster.
Yeah, so it's a very important game. You know, that proved that you could actually get a 3D shooter working on console with a controller. And you know, we got Doom 64 and all that stuff, Perfect Dark, which was beautiful game. And over the years, you know, they continued to make other stuff like that, and we had other Bond games. Well, in around 2007, Rare were making a remaster of GoldenEye. Now, this was going to be one of those titles like Halo MCC where you can go back and forth and like look at the different engines. And the game they had back then would be running at 1080p, 60 frames per second. This was on the Xbox 360, and it never came out. They couldn't release it because Activision, Microsoft, and Nintendo kind of all have little parts in the distribution rights, but mainly Nintendo. So it was never released. So they had this full, complete game with achievements listed on a server, and it was never touched for a decade, which is kind of sad if you think about it, you know, because GoldenEye is a classic. So people at Nintendo said that game can never release on another platform, and it looked like we would never see it ever again. Well, about a year and a half ago, some achievement details leaked, and some developers had blatantly been playing the game because there was the percentage markers next to the achievements, and these were full Xbox One listed achievements. So the game had already been ported over. So it looked like Microsoft and Sony, or I should say Microsoft and Nintendo, were sorting it out behind the scenes. Now, Jeff Grubb has reported in the past that this game is coming, but he has had some thoughts. I believe that the original game, the original version, the N64 version, will release on the Switch, you know, via its Nintendo Online Pass or whatever it is. And the remake or the remaster would come to Xbox. Now, I think that's likely, especially with the listings of the past few days. The full achievement list is now live on achievement websites. And it looks like this game is going to be announced during the Xbox Games Showcase. And to me, that sounds like it's going to be a day one release in Game Pass via a shadow drop. It seems like the perfect release, and I think it's either going to release then or on the 25th of August, when I believe it was originally released. So, Logan, what's your thoughts on it coming back?
I'm 100% stoked for it. It's like I said earlier, it's one of the most iconic, impactful FPS games ever made. And the fact that it's coming back, that they were able to work and play nice with Activision, MGM, Nintendo, all these different parties to get this game that was pretty much done, shuttered, resurrected, and put out for Xbox One and maybe Switch is awesome. I'm glad everybody could come together and do something for the greater good of the gaming community, and I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of takes today by people saying, you know, it's not a big deal or stuff, but you have to realize we lose a lot of games to time. You know, you will never be able to play the Transformers War for Cybertron games on Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo because of the license issues. You know, and this goes to pretty much any licensed game ever. You can't play the Wolverine Origins game on modern consoles because of the license and stuff. Like, if licenses weren't an issue, we would have an untold amount of licensed games via backwards compatibility because there were a lot, especially last generation, or say during the Xbox 360 generation. The Captain America game was great. It was basically Arkham Asylum, but with Captain America. We will never get to play that on modern hardware. Well, I mean, it's important we see things like this. And GoldenEye coming back like this, the one Bond game with the most complicated license issues, makes me believe that we could see other Bond games because Activision, They made other, Bond games over the years, like Nightfire and stuff. I think EA made a few, and I think Warner Brothers made a few as well. But this is a good sign, especially for Bond fans. And I think it might be a multi-game like shown. So basically, IO Interactive are also making the next Bond game, and there's been rumors that we will see it this year. So wouldn't it be cool if we see multiple Bond games during the Xbox Summer Showcase? Because it's been long enough for them now to talk about this. Because I saw a documentary by IO Interactive.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. They could. It would be cool to show. Okay, here's the grandfather of them all. GoldenEye, and then here's our modern take on James Bond in the new era. I could definitely see that. And if IO is there, maybe they show off Project Dragon too. Who knows?
Yeah, that's another shout as well. Like they could have multiple games to show there. But anyway, it's a good time for Bond game fans because again, we've not had a Bond game. I think it's been 10 years, maybe 11 years. I think the last one was Bloodstone on the Xbox 360. But yeah, who knows? We may see a lot of them come back, and it's a good sign. I really want to play Nightfire. I love that game. Anyway, we'll move on. I know there's a lot of people in chat that would probably like to play GoldenEye. So today on Xbox Game Pass, we've got a few other games, and we also got Chorus Space Combat game, which I'll talk about in a minute. We also have Oh, I've just realised we are 51 minutes into the show, and I forgot to press play on the gameplay. Wow. So if you're watching on YouTube and you expected gameplay, it should be starting in about 3 seconds. Now, I want to apologise. Yeah, there we go. It's starting. When is the showcase? Next Sunday. I'll write a note down in future so that doesn't happen. So if you're watching it, you've got gameplay now. So anyway, we're getting Chorus, which is a space combat game, now in Game Pass. I bought that at launch. Excellent game. I'll talk about it in a minute. And we also got Assassin's Creed Origins, which also has a next generation upgrade. It's a frames per second boost, but it unlocks the game's resolution now. So it runs at full 4K almost all the time now. And after playing it, like the game came out in 2017. It was a launch title, I believe, for the Xbox One X. And that game looked incredibly gorgeous. But that game, I believe, was 1600p or 1800p. But yeah, full 4K now, running at 60 frames. And if you have a Series S, it's 1080p 60 frames. That's very impressive for a tiny piece of hardware like that to run a game like Assassin's Creed Origins. A pretty demanding game, if that. And I don't know, man, what's your thoughts? Because like I know you like Assassin's Creed as well, and Origins was pretty fantastic.
I mean, it's pretty hard to pull off a game of that scope with ancient Egypt in all its glory, and Ubisoft really knocked it out of the park with this one. And then shouts to Jason and the BC team for FPS boost and all this and that, the resolution upscale. It is truly a work of art to experience, and if you haven't played it yet, now's the perfect time.
Yeah, and if you go into the Xbox Game Pass app, there's actually a perk that you can unlock for Assassin's Creed Origins, and it's a few extra quests. So yeah, I highly recommend people do that. But Assassin's Creed Origins, that was basically a soft reboot, kind of, for the Assassin's Creed franchise, because Assassin's Creed were these open world games that got very, I don't know, stagnant. I think Unity and Syndicate kind of, bored people a bit, bored me as a huge Assassin's Creed fan, but Origins was kind of taking on a lot of Witcher 3 vibes, which works a lot for the franchise, in my opinion, especially for this game. But yeah, if you like The Witcher 3 and you want to go to a game that's set in ancient Egypt, this is that game. The stealth's good, the action's good, it kind of has some Souls-like controls with the blocking and parrying. I highly recommend it. And playing it at 60 frames now, it's just incredible. Like, I get why PC people bragged about, high frame rates in open world games, because it just works and it's so good. And, the space game Chorus came out in, I believe, November 2021. And basically you play as a pilot that has access to how shall I put it, a ship that's alive. And it's, like, have you played Chorus yet, by the way?
I have not, but I plan on starting this week.
Okay, so it's an excellent space combat game. And the thing about that is that we don't get space combat games much anymore. During the PlayStation 1 generation, N64, we were getting space combat games on a regular basis. But the second the Xbox and PlayStation 2 and GameCube came out, like, we just got way less. In the Xbox 360 PS3 generation, even less. And during the Xbox One generation, I can think of maybe three full-on 3D space combat games where they actually had a budget of some sort. But yeah, Chorus is incredible. And the thing is, all flight games, be it space or aerial, aircraft have three ways of movement. You have pitch, yaw, and roll. But in this game, you don't control it like that. Basically, it controls like a first-person shooter. You aim where you want to fly. And when you unlock the second ship, where you can drift, it all clicks together. It's kind of like when you played Dying Light for the first time, and you don't know why you have to jump using a bumper, and then after playing for 30 minutes, you actually realise why that makes sense. It's kind of like that with the flight and Chorus. It all makes sense, especially when you unlock the second ship, which I think you do on the 5th main quest. It's an incredible game, and it's a game I wish had more light on it. I honestly think this is one of those games that would have benefited greatly from it launching in Game Pass. Because when this game came out, nobody was talking about it. Nobody, like the company behind it, they didn't really advertise it much. I never saw any trailers on YouTube. And there's people that replying to my clips today, like, it's the first time seeing the game. And it's kind of sad because, I want to see a sequel to this. And the fact that it had no eyes on it, on any platform, nobody paid attention to it. It's kind of sad in a way. But, who knows, it being in Game Pass, they obviously got money for this. They got money up front. So, I don't know, it's a good sign at least. I just want to see more games like this because, again, in the past generation, we've had 3 space combat games. Kind of. There was an indie game that was okay. I can't remember its name. We got Star Wars Squadrons, which was incredible, and Chorus is excellent. The second ship you get does actually help finishing side quests because you need to drift inside starships to get stuff done. But yeah, great game. Again, the drift mechanic is the main thing in that game, and you get it with the second ship. And basically, the game opens up, and it's an action RPG. You go around doing quests for people, you protect ships, you go collect cargo. It's just really good. I highly recommend it. And now that it's in Game Pass, you have no reason not to try it. And good times for space combat games. So it kind of leaked today that by Tom Henderson online that Kojima's new game, Overdose, a horror game, first person or third person horror game, that kind of leaks. Tom Henderson reported about it. If I can find the link, I'll post it in the description down below. But basically, Kojima's game has slowly been leaking over the past month. And I know you wanted to talk about this, Logan, so what's your thoughts on the whole Kojima thing?
I think the Kojima thing is fascinating. I know he's a very polarizing guy in the industry. Like, there are some people who really love his games, and it's like almost like a legit like cult following kind of. And then there are those that are like, just don't get it. And I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I've enjoyed some of his games, and then some other ones I've just been like, it's just not my thing. But his name, you can't deny how much weight it carries in the industry. Both, especially in Japan. And so having him associated with Xbox for a title is a big deal, especially for over there. And then launching into Game Pass, and if this game that was leaked is the Xbox game that he's doing, because there's some doubt about whether this is the cloud game or not. But if it is, I'm super excited because I love horror games. It's one of my favorite genres. So the idea of Kojima actually getting to do a horror game and not having Konami pull the rug out from under him this time, RIP, pour one out for PT. It makes me really excited. So I hope the horror game is the Xbox title. If it's not, I'll get it and just play it on my PS5. But I'm really excited to see what his Xbox title is.
Yeah, so like there's been some speculation on what it is, and basically Norman Reedus about a month ago said that they're working on the second Death Stranding game. So I don't think this is that. The fact that he wanted Tom Henderson to pull the post, it makes me think it's the Xbox thing. Tom Henderson didn't actually, sign any NDA, so he can talk about it and post about it as much as he wants. Um, I'm leaning towards it being the Xbox thing, and the thing is, the Xbox horror game was meant to be using the cloud in some way. And if you've played any of Kojima's previous games, you know that he's been wanting to work on horror for quite a while. There's horror stuff in the Metal Gear games and Death Stranding, so it kind of makes sense, And with it being right before the game showcase, every year something leaks, be it days or weeks beforehand, and we are less than a week before the Xbox Summer Showcase. It kind of makes sense, and the fact that he wanted to pull the article straight away, you know, it's probably going to be one of the big reveals on Thursday, or shall I say Sunday. So, yeah, I'm a Kojima fan, but I'm a Kojima fan to the point where I can admit games are bad or good. Metal Gear Solid 1 through 4, excellent. Metal Gear Solid 5, amazing gameplay, terrible story. Like, if you're a Metal Gear Solid game and you have main story information in optional audio tapes, bad game design. Just no. It has excellent gameplay, but that game did not deserve all the 10 out of 10s it got. No chance. And as a huge Metal Gear fan, that game was a huge letdown. But him making a horror game does sound interesting, and I'd be interested. And plus, this would be another day one Game Pass game. And I think people want more horror games on Xbox. I think the next year, in general, we actually do have a lot of horror games coming in general. We have The Quarry, which I think's next month. We have Scorn. There's Dead
I think
Space.
it's Friday, actually.
Really? Oh, wow. Okay, so that's close. I was completely wrong about that. But, yeah, we have the Dead Space remake, Scorn, the Callisto Protocol, Pragmata. Apparently that's a horror game from what I've heard. I don't believe it, but, it looks like a good time for horror fans, and I think Kojima making a horror game finally, it could be maybe like the Silent Hill game he was originally going to make, because again, PT, that thing was cancelled, and people will never see the light of day of that. So, yeah, I think it looks really likely, and we have another bot in chat, lovely. I think when it comes to all these, E3 things, we always see these leaks about a week beforehand, and you can't really help it. Microsoft has apparently been cracking down on, the leaks, because every year, I think going back to 2016, the leaks were pretty bad. Like, Microsoft's entirety of E3 leaks, including what the console looked like. So, I don't know. I think we're probably going to see the Kojima thing, and yeah. But hey, that means we're probably going to see more games than people expect. Matthew just said, "Get off this forum, naked bot." You can't help it, unfortunately. It just happens every week, and trying to talk and moderate at the same time, it's a bit of a challenge. I'll admit that. Anyway, we'll move on. So today, Microsoft filed a trademark for the game Contraband. Now, Avalanche, the developers of Just Cause and Rage 2. They've been making this co-op heist game for a few years now. I made a video about it a while back. I'll post the link in the description after the show. But this game is basically a co-op heist game. And we don't really get heist games. You had the Payday games where, in my opinion, they felt kind of clunky. The controls, in my opinion, didn't feel that good. I always got motion sickness playing those games. GTA 5 basically had heists, but everything felt pre-planned. Like, it didn't feel like you made the plans. It just felt like, go to Objective A, pick up this, and then do the heist. But this is apparently a full-on heist game where you plan out full heists. And I've heard it's first person. I'm not entirely sure about that. But, yeah, them filing the trademark just means we're going to see it this week. Like, this game has been in development for about 3 years, from what I believe. So, of all times and all places, that makes sense. Like, what's your thoughts on the whole, like, contraband trademark thing?
Well, I think the trademark is definitely a good sign that you will probably be hearing and seeing something soon on it. If not at this showcase, then by the Game Awards. Um, it's been in development for a while. Depending on who you ask, some say it's missed some key deadlines, and then others say it's going smoothly. So, I mean, I don't know, but it's been several years. It's definitely time to see something from it. And the fact that Microsoft owns the IP itself is interesting. Kind of make sure that they want to keep their IPs in perpetuity so that they can always keep them on Game Pass. And who knows? Maybe they acquired Avalanche too, and just they liked the game so much they bought them. Not saying that, but it's a potential scenario you could see.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought Avalanche would be one of those studios Microsoft would go after, but I'm less and less optimistic about that now because recently they came out and said they're going to be working on a new Just Cause game, and Just Cause, Square Enix basically does that. They own that or publish that. So I don't know, but I mean, it's a good sign them making a game like this because I think Avalanche make, look, I'll be honest, batshit crazy games, right? Like Just Cause, the action you can do in that game doesn't make sense, but it's awesome. But them doing a more gritty, realistic heist game, it's exciting. It's something different for them. And I've been playing their games since I think it was the original Just Cause, and it'll be cool to see them do something really different. And plus, heist games. Again, I was let down with the heists in Grand Theft Auto 5 because it was all pre-planned. You didn't really do anything. There was no freedom of choice. And then with the heists online, it's the same thing. Just go there, pick up this and that. And I don't know. I find it kind of boring, but like if this lets you plan out the entire heist in co-op, that sounds really cool. That sounds really refreshing. I think for Game Pass as well, they need more co-op games because the co-op games at the minute are just zombie style. We have Back for Blood, you have State of Decay and stuff. So if yeah, Matthew just spent in chat. Contraband if it can mix the co-op heist gameplay with Just Cause and stuff. That's what I'm hoping. If they can have Just Cause style action with maybe payday style heists, I don't know. It has to be a good product in my opinion. We don't get heist games enough, and as an Avalanche fan, I'm optimistic. And I think before we move on, I just want to say if you're new to the channel again, please like, share, and subscribe. I have the gameplay on the screen now because I remember to press the button. Again, super chats are live if you want to support the channel. All that stuff's good. But yeah, Contraband. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good week for Xbox fans because people have been saying all year, what's coming to Xbox, and people talk about Starfield and Redfall getting delayed. And I never saw much disappointment over Redfall because we really don't know what that is outside of it being a Borderlands style game with vampires. I was kind of disappointed by Starfield not being shown this week, or well, this coming week, because it's a brand new Bethesda RPG. We don't get single player Bethesda RPGs that often, especially new IP. But we're still going to see gameplay this week, and I think for the longest time, people just want to know what games are coming because people have every right to be disappointed in Starfield not coming this year, but they are still going to come out with games this year. I don't think Microsoft are just not going to release nothing. I believe they probably had games already, ready for this year outside of Starfield. And I've seen some speculation that did they delay the game other than the fact that it needs to be, more polished, but have they got other games to release? And that's where I want to go into your predictions, Logan, because we are less than a week away from the Xbox Game Showcase. And the reason I'm not going to go into my predictions right now is because I had to make a whole different video on it, which will be out this week. And yeah, Logan, I want to know what your predictions are because it's been a wild week and we're probably going to see more leaks up until then.
Yeah, that my predictions may look really, really dumb by the end of the week if there's some leaks or something. So just at least give me the caveat that it is Tuesday. But um, for bold predictions, one of my spiciest predictions is that I think Phil went to Obsidian see if they could get Avowed out this year, and that Avowed takes Starfield's spot in November, December. That's one of my bold predictions is that Obsidian was far enough along where they were able to cram it and get it out, and it will be here this holiday. That's one of my bold predictions. It might end up sounding ludicrous when they say it comes in March next year, but that's one of my spicy predictions that could happen. Um, as for like the one more thing type, I just I don't know. It might just be 6-year-old me just trying to will it into existence, but I just have some feeling Banjo will make an appearance of some sort. I just I we gotta will it into existence. The Banjo Bros have suffered long enough. It's time. Bring the Baron Bird back. I think he might make a brief appearance in like some teaser trailer. Um, I do think we will see Redfall and Starfield in some capacity, probably little bits of gameplay and updates on their development. Um, I believe Machine Games will be there. Um, if nothing else for Indiana Jones, maybe a slight little tease for Wolfenstein 3. Um, id, I don't. I'm not expecting id to be there, but if they were there, maybe it would be for a Quake reboot. That would be pretty nice, wouldn't it? And then I'd love to see the Fallout remasters. That I hope they're there. Um, I don't know if it's a good bet or not, but I would like to see it. Um, as for like, I think it's a given Forza's going to be there. The reboot. Uh, Sea of Thieves is eternal. It always shambles in to every Xbox show with some new content update. So I think you can almost take it to the bank that Sea of Thieves will be there in some capacity. GoldenEye, I'm confident that'll be there. I wouldn't be shocked if BC team made an appearance in some capacity. Not saying new titles, just I don't think they've been sitting and twiddling their thumbs for 6 months since that last batch. I reckon they've been working on something for either a new FPS boost thing or a resolution boost, something. I just have a hunch we'll see something from them. And let's see, what else do I think? That's what I have off the top of my head.
While I am been saving my predictions for the video I'm posting this week because it's just too long to talk about in the show. I want to talk about the Avowed thing you mentioned because we have the exact same thought. Avowed, I don't think is as far away as people believe. We got that cool trailer a few years ago and nothing since, but we do know that Obsidian can make like big games with small teams. And Avowed is apparently their biggest game to date. So the fact that we haven't heard much, like they've been super quiet about that game ever since the trailer. And I think it's been long enough that we could probably see that this year. Because of all RPGs to announce, like putting Starfield off till next year would make more sense because I don't know, I can't see them releasing, let's say, Starfield in November when they were originally going to, and then releasing something like Avowed, the smaller game, because it's even just by the name, it's smaller compared to Starfield. I can't see them announcing like early next year for Avowed and have that do well. But if they announce Avowed for coming out late this year, then it would make more sense. I don't know. I think there's something going on with Avowed. To me, it does seem like it's going to be not as far out as people believe. And we also have Fable and that they're going to talk about. But yeah, I'm feeling the same situation with Avowed. And you mentioned the backwards compatible stuff. Like people like the whole BC stuff. Like again, frames per second boosts. Those announcements always go down well. There's the hardware that they're going to show. I have a prediction which I haven't got in my video. I think they're going to announce a 1 terabyte Xbox Series S and a 2 terabyte Xbox Series X. Just as small kind of small announcements. And the whole Streambox thing, like that rumor's been picking up a lot ever since Jez reported about it. But I don't know. I think with that, obviously they're going to be focusing on games this year. People have been asking where are the games, and obviously it makes sense. But obviously they're going to have some hardware stuff there. They're probably going to have a collector's edition of a console there. Forza is obviously going to take up some time there because they need to talk about the expansions for Forza Horizon 5. Forza Motorsport is apparently coming this year. Like, it kind of makes sense to talk about those games, but, I think people have a lot to look forward to. Again, ever since Jeff Keighley said last night about, people should temper their expectations, people have lost their mind online. Like, my Twitter feed has just been people being angry In fact, that's my Twitter feed almost every single day. People being angry about video games. um, but yeah, I think gamers have a lot to look forward to this year, and I think when it comes to this whole like E3 stuff, like Microsoft, I think they know by now they're gonna have to start showing games throughout the year because when it comes to like the other press conferences and stuff, like we can see games at Gamescom or the Game Awards and all that stuff, on the XO events, like the whole wait till E3 thing. I think Microsoft at this point is aware that is a meme, and Microsoft has responded positively to that stuff before, and in the end we win, so I do think we will actually see announcements throughout the year, and I don't know, like Logan, what's your thought on them announcing games outside of E3?
I think it's 100% necessary. Like you said, the memes of just wait till E3 or this or that. Like, I mean, not everybody has like the attention span of a gnat, but still, like you gotta have something coming out semi regularly to keep people engaged and interested. Like, if you're outside of the news and that's not necessarily a good thing in the gaming industry. You want at least something positive in the news every few months, whether it's a indie showcase or a here's a deep dive on Hellblade 2 and the mocap, or we're going to Iceland and doing this, or here's the latest update for Flight Simulator. Even like some smaller shows like that. Just something positive to keep momentum going. Um, I hope Gamescom isn't just like a E3 redux like it kind of has been in the past, where they basically just regurgitate what they had at E3 and then maybe have another trailer or two of some DLC or something. I hope it stands out on its own this year. And then as for E3 predictions, I had a few more pop in my head. I can't believe I forgot, but I'm pretty sure Pentiment is going to be there because Josh Sawyer tweeted out that like he's getting his nails done, like he's getting prettied up, ready for the show. I think that's a pretty good sign that they'll be there. I think In Exile's Cobalt, their steampunk game, is going to be there. They've been very, very active on social media lately. Basically, even today, they're like, "Come on, guys, we got this game coming. Just give us a minute." And so it sounds like they'll be there. And then I think we will finally see what on earth Compulsion is actually working on. I think Midnight will be there as well.
Yeah, Compulsion Games, that kind of makes sense because it's been long enough now, and every time that game gets brought up or whatever they're developing, people automatically talk about Bioshock. And to me, whenever I hear a game being like Bioshock, that instantly gets me excited. Apparently, it's a third person game as well. So, Bioshock, third person, I like the sound of it already. And you're right, it has been long enough because I think we first heard about that game back in 2018 or something. It's been long enough because We Happy Few came out a long time ago. I think We Happy Few came out the same year as the One X, maybe. So yeah, it's been a while. It's been way long enough now. And obviously last year we didn't see a lot of games, but if you look at last year's show, I think they announced like 30 games or something were coming to Game Pass day one. There was also the big games by third party coming to Game Pass day one, like Warhammer 40k Darktide coming to Game Pass this September. A Plague Tale Requiem is coming to Xbox Series consoles this year, day one Xbox Game Pass, and we should be hearing about that soon. It looks like Focus Home Interactive starting to talk about their game releases more, which is cool. But yeah, I don't think this year is going to be as bland as people think. Like, people just need to calm down. And, the first party stuff is going to be there. And I'm just going to be intrigued to see what third party stuff's there because, again, last year we had some huge third party Game Pass stuff announced. And, this year could be even better. But it's going to be an exciting time. And I think people should just calm down. I try to bring positivity in this stuff because, the whole wait to E3 thing you see all the time and people are just being, overzealous about it. It's a bit weird. And Fat Point in chat just said Final Fantasy VII Remake Shadow Drop. The thing is, right, I know that Sony puts into their contract for some of their marketing deals that if they market a game, it can't go on Game Pass. So, for instance, Resident Evil 8, that could not launch in Game Pass, as far as I'm aware, because the way Sony wrote it into their deal. The exclusivity deal for Final Fantasy VII is up. So as far as I'm aware, that they could not write into a contract that it can never go in Game Pass. Now, will it go in Game Pass if it's announced? I think it might be happening, but either way, I want to support the game because if a game goes into Game Pass, it's making the money, right? But I think it's important for Japanese games when they're coming over to Xbox. Like, you shouldn't feel obligated to buy them even if you don't want it, just to support Japanese games. Like, buy it if you want it. But for something like Final Fantasy VII, especially Final Fantasy as a brand, I think it's important for that game to sell well, especially on Xbox, because they have to prove that the games can sell. That's how Square Enix bring over more games. Kingdom Hearts 3 was the third game that launched in the franchise. It did okay, to the point where we actually got the collection, which apparently sold okay. And those games also came to Game Pass, but I'm about 95% certain that we will see Final Fantasy during the Xbox Summer Showcase. Like, Logan, you think it's going to be there?
I'm actually not as certain about Final Fantasy VII. I just have this inkling suspicion that Square and Sony kind of are just, Sony in particular wants to keep that just associated with the PlayStation brand. Whether they keep extending that deal or not, if it comes to Xbox, I'm excited. I will absolutely play it. I'm less certain about that one. As for Persona, though, I do think Persona will be there and will be announced for Game Pass. Maybe not 5, but I think some of the older ones will be on Game Pass.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would love to see Persona 4 Golden on Xbox. I think that could be likely. Atlas, they've shown this year that they will put games on Xbox. The Soul Hackers 2, that's coming to Xbox this August. We still haven't seen gameplay properly this year, even though it launches in a few months. And we still haven't seen dubbed English gameplay because they have to show that for those types of games. But yeah, I think there's a high possibility we will see either Final Fantasy or Persona there. Final Fantasy I'm a bit weird with because of the marketing deals, but I think there's a possibility. And there's the Gears collection. Like, there's certain things. Like, I wasn't going to talk about my predictions because of the video, but I'll talk about the stuff that's pretty much leaked, all but confirmed. GoldenEye, we all know. Everyone on Earth knows about the GoldenEye situation. The Gears collection, to me, makes more sense than anything because they've already done 1/3 of the package. Gears of War Ultimate Edition, they've done the game. It's ready to go. They just have to 4K 60 frames HDR it, which they already have the PC stuff for. So they need to put that in a collection with 2 other games. And by the way, Gears of War 2 is one of my favourite games of all time. If they can give that the treatment the first game got, I will be a happy chappy because I love that game. And Gears 3 is already a good looking game. So if they can do that for the third game as well, and it just makes the more sense because if they have all the multiplayer maps in one space and all the horde stuff in one space, it just makes sense. Look at MCC and the Halo games, right? They turned off the servers for the Halo games on 360 because there was like next to no people playing them anymore, and they already have the better versions on Xbox One. So it kind of makes sense. Bring over those legacy games to new platforms via this remaster. And the funny thing about Gears is that Gears Ultimate Edition is the grey line, between a remake and a remaster, right? All the same audio's there from the original, but they rebuilt all the assets from the ground up. Brand new cutscenes. Like, I reinstalled the game last night to get some B-roll, and the game is gorgeous. Like, they remade everything in Unreal Engine 4, and it's a gorgeous game. So I'm about 99.9% certain the Gears collection is going to be there. Like, all but confirmed. It kind of makes sense. Again, 1/3 of the package is already done, and as a prediction, I think that Add Judgment next year, as a little DLC, what they did with Reach and ODST, kind of makes sense. And plus, Gears fans have been wanting this for years. They are in the best situation when it comes to this because the games are already backwards compatible. They already have free upgrades via 4K support and 60 frames boosts. So if you're someone that likes to play the original versions, you have the option, and you have the option to play them with the upgrades. So them offering a remaster, it's literally effortless. Like you can't get angry about it. It's just an option. You're not forced to buy it to play the game because it doesn't exist on the store or on the platform you play on. You can just play whatever version you want, which is the best scenario. And like Logan, you pretty much confirmed on the whole Gears situation, yeah?
Yeah, I'm confident the Gears collection exists. I'd go a little bit further and say that, in my opinion, that if they to make a Gears collection, that not only do you make it more like the Master Chief collection where you have the multiplayer facet and everything, this hub and everything, and then you've upscaled the games and everything, but I reckon they might add some stuff, whether it's cut content or kind of maybe update some control schemes or something. Like I have a feeling that they wouldn't go to all this time and effort just to do a little slight upscale and ship it out when they've already done so much effort on the BC part of it, or the games are basically free remasters anyway. Instead of just, putting them all in one package and selling them again, I reckon, if indeed this is real, which I do think it is, that they will have probably done some additional work on the games that will make them stand out and make it go, okay, for the ultimate Gears experience, I will jump into this. Like, if you remember the Gears 1 Ultimate, it actually came with a whole mission that was exclusive originally to the PC version of Gears of War. The whole part where you're running from the Brumach and you go to the theater and you
Yeah.
split up, and like it added like a whole nother mission to it. So I wouldn't be shocked if it includes some stuff that had either been cut or originally planned but didn't make it, or just some renovations to controls and some modern accessibilities added.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the DLC thing and the cut content. That kind of makes a lot of sense because, the Gears of War games like 2 and 3, they have expansions. So if they were to do the same thing as, Gears Ultimate Edition, I can see them mainly integrating those into the campaign more so it's seamless rather than having to select them from a menu. And, Gears Judgment, if they add that later, that has an expansion, or should I say, a level that basically takes place during Gears of War 3. So maybe they'd put that in the Gears 3 campaign. They could do a lot of stuff. And, with Unreal Engine, like Gears Ultimate Edition, they remade all the assets, remade the cutscenes, everything in Unreal Engine 4. I think they will do the same too, the same for the other two, but will they go to Unreal Engine 5? I'm not entirely sure. There's not a lot of projects right now being developed in Unreal Engine 5, but the good thing about Unreal Engine is that they can move stuff to there, they can port it, so I think it's a lot of stuff. And the thing is, when it comes to remakes and remasters, like, there's been a remake, remaster, shall I say, rumor, for about 3 years of a Fallout 3 remaster. I 100% believe that's happening. Microsoft now own enough IP and studios that having a studio that just makes remasters kind of makes sense because, again, the games are backwards compatible. It just generates more revenue, and there's people like me that would go out and buy a remaster for something like Fallout 3, which is also one of my favorite games of all time. I think that's highly likely. I think there'd probably be maybe like a 5 minute segment or maybe 2 minute segment at the Xbox showcase talking about remasters. Kind of makes sense. Before we go on, again, just want to say if you're enjoying the show, please like, share, and subscribe. All that stuff, it helps the channel out. Super chats are now live because I finally sorted out how to do that. So I want to talk about demos, right? So when Microsoft, I should say, when Sony announced the PlayStation Plus Essential tiers, they announced that they're going to allow people to play trials that are locked behind the paywall. And the reaction to that was, I'd say it was positive. Well, not positive. They were right. Like, people should not pay for demos. So it came out today by Tom Henderson that Microsoft are also going to integrate trials for indie games in Game Pass. Now, my opinion in general is that I don't think trials in general should be locked behind a paywall. EA Access, or I should say EA Play, they have 10-hour or 5-hour trials for some of their games locked behind EA Access. the reason I don't see people get angry about that is because EA doesn't really release many games. They release their sports games. They're going to release one Star Wars game every few years or whatever. So like you can't really sit and shake and get angry over that. But them integrate, I should say, Microsoft integrating demos or trials into Game Pass seems like a good idea, but it has to be done right. Like, what's your thought on that? Because I don't know, locking it behind a paywall could be seen as a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not a fan of the idea of hiding demos behind a paywall, especially if it's just for some of the smaller titles. I if it was for AAA titles in addition to the smaller ones, maybe. But just I don't know. It on one hand, it kind of just seems like they would be doing it just to have it as well, so that Sony wouldn't have something that they didn't. Is there really a huge demand for that? I don't know, but me, like, if they do it and put it behind a paywall, I don't think I'd like that very much.
You know, you mentioned the whole demand thing, and I don't really see much demand for it. Demos used to be big back in the day. Demos on demo discs used to sell games. Like I remember, I think it was Arkham Asylum was on a demo disc. That game basically stole that game. Like nobody thought we were going to get this bloody excellent Batman game, right? And then the demo for that came out, and people were blown away. Like I was blown away by the demo by that, and I was like, "Wow, this is not just a okay Batman game; it's a phenomenal Batman game." And I bought the game because of the demo. And like demos don't really play much part in like the gaming space anymore because there's not really much need for them. Back in the day, developers had to make bespoke demos, take their development time, and make a demo. They couldn't just like now the way trials work now on Xbox and PlayStation is basically you download almost the whole game or section of the game and it's timed. It's got a timer on it, right? The developers don't really have to go in there and make a demo from scratch. So if you go into the trials section on Xbox right now, a lot of those downloads are actually the full game, but they got timers on them, and you can transfer your progress on a lot of them to the full game. But putting demos behind a paywall, it just I don't know, it just seems weird, and especially if it's for indie games, like shouldn't their demos be on the store already? Because there already is a demo section, and there's a lot of indie games with demos in that section. And every year for the past, I don't know, 3 summers, we've seen a lot of indie games put their E3 demos on the store. And I don't know, I don't know, it's just weird to have, demos behind a paywall. It's not the end of the world, but I just think it's a weird thing to announce. I don't even see that as something they'd actually have on the show. Because again, it's like, you can't really get excited about demos. Like, the prospect of playing demos you have at E3 that are shown at E3 is a cool idea. They did that a few years ago. You could play the games that were actually shown on stage. I think they did that for, I want to say, BioShock or something back in 2007. It was a long time ago, but you could play them. There was no charge behind them or anything. But yeah, it's a weird situation. I think locking demos and trials behind a paywall shouldn't be a thing. This isn't demo discs where you're buying the magazine and you're getting the disc anymore. It's not like that anymore. I don't know, it's strange. We're going to see a lot of Game Pass announcements next week, I should say on Sunday, but it's an exciting time. I think Xbox gamers should take the time to actually enjoy themselves because time and time again, I see people, doing the whole wait till E3 thing, looking at what games is coming out this year and saying that there's not much coming out, despite the fact there's a lot of third-party games coming out, and there's a lot of first-party games going to be announced there. I think people just need to, calm, and we have the bot back in chat. Excuse me while I moderate this. But yeah, I think people should be excited. Like, there's no, tempering expectations or anything. Like, people should just enjoy themselves. And yeah. Anyway, Logan, have you got anything else to cover on the channel before we leave?
On the Tom Henderson thing, he said that he expects it to be something that they would show before one of the showcases, whether it's Joff's that's in a couple days or before the Xbox event. He reckons that it won't be a showcase item, but something like that is shown off before.
Yeah. I mean, again, nobody's going to get really super excited over a demo announcement like on stage. So that doesn't make much sense. But it's going to be an interesting few days. I think if people really want to enjoy this showcase, go to Twitter and mute certain key phrases. That's what I do every year, and it kind of works. Like if you don't want things to be spoiled, and when it comes to like spoilers in general for E3, like even though I do cover things on YouTube, I don't report rumors like super leaks. Like whenever I hear about something, I won't make a video on it when there's a showcase around the corner, because it kind of ruins the moment. Because if a game is going to be announced, it's not really known, so there's not much point in making topics or content about it. But like I think gamers should just enjoy it. Like when I watch E3, I watch it as a fan, and then I go through it again as a content creator and write notes and all that stuff. But I think people should have a lot to look forward to this week. There's only a few days to go. It's going to be exciting. It's been actually a shorter show this week than I originally planned. And sorry for not having the gameplay up for people watching on YouTube. Again, I will write a note and I'll have it displayed the whole time next time. Logan, have you got anything interesting coming up?
Yeah, I'm gonna actually be working on a couple pieces. One is gonna be on some indie studios that I really admire and I think do good work in the industry that deserve some recognition. And then another piece that's gonna be on Banjo. That one might not age well if he ends up at the show or not, but I feel like Banjo is something that needs to be talked about.
Yeah, I think the Banjo thing. A lot of people want Banjo to come back. You talk about Banjo all the time. I think of all times, it makes sense to bring Banjo back, especially since we don't really have a lot of 3D platformers, and considering Banjo Kazooie went to Super Smash Brothers, there is a need for a new game in that franchise. And considering that they're probably going to get Toys for Bob in the next year, they would pretty much be the ideal studio to work on a new Banjo Kazooie game. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the article, man. Just I'll have your Twitter and my Twitter, everyone's Twitter, in the description down below. Follow us. We talk about game and stuff all the time. And if you want to see some crazy, some random, posts, it's every day. I get this crap every day, so I'll post it. Do you know why I post that stuff? To make people laugh, and so you know who to block. Like that's the only reason I post that. Because at the end of the day, I take a screenshot, I block them, and that's it. I don't really think about it. It doesn't really upset me in any way. It's just I look at them and think they are crazy. I'll take a screenshot because it's bat crap. But yeah, anyway, follow us on Twitter. The links will be in the description down below. I have a predictions video where I talk about literally everything I think is going to be shown there. And this is an actual prediction video with actual predictions. It's not just a list of leaks, because I think people get those mixed up. Although there's a lot of things I'm predicting that I'm 99% certain that's going to be there. Anyway, again, follow us on Twitter. The links will be in the description down below. Follow us on YouTube. Again, weekly content is back. I had lots of copyright issues and all that stuff. It's all sorted now. So weekly topics is back, as well as future podcasts. Share and subscribe, all that stuff. My voice is going because I've been talking for hours. And yeah, if you want to support future videos and live streams, again, Super Chats is live. We've had a good show. We'll be back next Tuesday to talk about all the stuff shown. And it should be a pretty long show, and we should be going live at the exact same time next week. Anyway, see you next week. We are out. Peace. Jesus, my voice.